Yo, what's up, guys, and welcome to the Movie Newbie. My name's Jibril Sahimi, and I am the newbie.
Oliver Mangum, writer, producer, fellow film lover, occasionally capable of insight.
Raphael Lucas, thespian, cinephile, and human golden retriever.
So yeah, enjoy the show. Yo, what's up? And we are back again with another episode of the Movie Newbie. I'm your host, Jibril Sahimi, and I'm joined by the two usual guys, Ollie and Raph. But I think Raph has a special guest with us today.
I sure do. I am in the house here with Kyle Campbell-Pope, fellow director, fellow friend, who is just an incredible human, talented director, talented writer. And the reason why we met is through a film called Lover's Walk, which we shot last year before I actually went to Singapore. It was like the last thing I did before I went on that flight. And yeah, we became fast friends ever since. And hey, Kyle, welcome to the show and thank you for being here. What an opportunity for us to just be in your presence, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for having me. Lovely to be with all of you three on this podcast. Thanks for the invite.
Of course.
I'm really excited to just chat about films, chat about some good stuff. And, I guess we should get to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, let's get it cracking.
Let's dive into
you want
it.
to take this one?
I can.
It's your film, man.
Absolutely.
This is your film.
This is literally.
This is really like
this
your
is really
film.
like my film. So yeah, Kyle, if you don't know this, this is probably the film I've seen the most, and I would say it's my favorite film just because I've seen it the most. So surely there's a pattern there. I'm like, if I keep watching it, maybe it means something. And I remember first watching this film, and I was completely galvanized by it. It changed the way I saw films. It changed the way I critiqued films, or it just kind of unveiled this whole new world of magic in filmmaking. And I think, a big opportunity for me to delve deeper into what it is I love about filmmaking. So I thank Alfonso Cuarón. I thank Emmanuel Lubezki. I thank everyone that was a part of this film for really putting me in a deeper place with my cinephile self. So this film introduced a lot to me, and watching it again for the 2000th time, there's still something that comes out of it. There's still something that I'm like, oh shit, I did not see that. But I'll say my initial thoughts quickly. So we're reviewing Children of Men, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, shot by the master himself, Emmanuel Lubezki, and starring, I think, what is probably his finest performance, Clive Owen, and then Julianne Moore, a hippy-dippy Michael Caine, who would have thought, and Chiwetel Ejiofor, Charlie Hunnam, brilliant cast. And it's from the terrifyingly chilly and prescient book of the same name by P.D. James. Children of Men, first thoughts is it's still, for me, it's a masterpiece. It's a modern masterpiece. It's the 21st century masterpiece. I will give it no flaw. And I only appreciate it more by watching it more. So those are my thoughts. And you can already tell what rating I'm going to give it by the end of this.
You're basically, we're no notes.
Yeah, basically no notes, no armchair moment. This movie is perfect. I'm excited to hear your thoughts, Kyle, as a director, as someone who is also quite a cinephile, because that's how our friendship grew, is we talked about movies. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it's great to hear the first opinion of Children of Men.
Yeah.
Strangely, it's the first time I've watched it. My friend Nathaniel, he's like you. He loves Children of Men. There was one time we were around his house. It was 2 a.m., 3 a.m. We were just watching a marathon of films you should be watching 2 a.m., 3 a.m. because you're all tired, you're all a bit groggy.
Yeah.
I remember just Children of Men being in the background and all these wonders just happening, these really intense wonders, and I'm like, I need to sleep because I can't really take in what's going on right now. But finally, and thankfully, I've watched it. I do think it's technical excellence. I do think for a film that's been made in 2006, very early, I guess 2000s and stuff, it is quite mad that we had these very intense plays of genre. I was watching it and I'm thinking, wow, this I'm really into survival horror, kind of stuff that's like Resident Evil or Evil Dead, kind of just very intense kind of you know, like person versus kind of like something, something like, you know, crazy, like mad. I felt like this, which is like way more grounded in reality. You have these very intense sequences of like, you know, just like Clive Owen's character Theo. He's just like running through just like madness of just kind of like the world, like just very intense and kind of like all out war between kind of like good and bad and kind of like military versus kind of like anarchists. And it's great. Like it's a great experience. Like I think the last 40 minutes for me, or like the last hour, is like top. Like kind of like after like I guess spoiler alert if anyone hasn't seen it, but like
which you should.
Like, yeah.
Well, this is a spoiler.
Yeah,
podcast.
This is a spoiler. We spoil all the time. Don't worry about it.
Then I take back my spoiler alert. But,
please do.
But yeah, when Key, like obviously she gives birth to the baby, and I guess just from then it feels like the film just kind of just antes up by like from 100 to 200 because it's just like a very intense. Well, it's just a crazy set of like events that happen. It's an interesting film to me. It's very interesting. I really do like Alfonso Cuarón's films. I guess Gravity is one that kind of comes to mind. But I really did like Children of Men, and have many thoughts to discuss with everyone. Like once I hear everyone's. But I'd love to pass it on.
Pass on the baton to Ollie.
Oh yeah, sure. So I don't think I've seen this nearly as many times as you have, Raf. I don't think anyone even cracked the top 100 in terms of most rewatched films, but I've definitely seen it quite a few times. I think I saw it first when I was a teenager, when I was a budding cinephile myself, and I've revisited it a number of times since. So I've always really, really admired this film. I think it's always held a special place in my heart. And yeah, upon this most recent rewatch, I found it to be a word that I would describe this film as is undeniable. There are particular stretches of this film and sequences and devices that it sort of employs, like from more from a technical standpoint, that are just undeniable. They are going to bowl you over. They're going to sort of grab you by the collars and sort of scream in your face, basically. and it's weird to talk about a film that is dealing with such dark, unpleasant subject matter as being in this sort of way, but it's almost like, from a filmmaking standpoint, it's like watching your favorite football players highlight goals on YouTube or something.
Sure,
like watching certain sequences as someone who's interested in filmmaking.
Jabril likes that.
You'll watch
example.
like that. You'll watch that 10-minute tracking shot at the end, and or if it comes on TV, you'll ask everyone to be quiet just so we can all watch it together, because it's just so impressive. Even though again it's such a bleak story in many ways. So I think it's visceral, thrilling filmmaking. I do have a couple of issues with it from a script standpoint.
Good. Yeah.
Maybe we can dig into that a little bit later. But also my last, part of my first impressions, I'll just say what struck me is how tight this film is too. For a film that is credited so much for what it does with long extended sequences, I think it manages to pack a lot of movie into like 99 minutes,
which is insane.
A lot of world building too, and I think what it does on that level as well from a pacing standpoint is really impressive. So yeah, what about you, Jabril, though?
So I think the first time I watched this was when it came out, so I was like 11 years old or 12. So like
in the cinema.
In the cinema. It was Bahrain, so they don't give a shit.
You can just go ahead.
They're like, how old are you? 25. Sure.
Go in. Get in there.
So I definitely kind of remember little bits and bobs of the movie, but nothing as substantial as like the viewing that I had earlier today. So I thought
you had not seen it. You had not seen it since
that first time I watched it. So it was kind of like watching the movie again. It's kind of we've done this, I think, a few times. I think like The Godfather when we did it. It was like ages since I watched it. So I, having like watched a bunch of Cuarón's other movies, I was like, I think I'm gonna really like this. But I'm kind of surprised as to how much like I didn't like it. Like I thought I would be a 10.
Heresy.
I thought it would be a 10, but then I realized like it's hard not to see like the whole white savior thing. It's hard not to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard. Like there were choices where like, the immigrants are like just the view on Islam and Muslims. The
Sure.
only time that you hear Arabic or that you even see Muslims is when they're screaming Allahu Akbar and there's an uprising going on. And in 2006, that is a disgusting choice, in my opinion, with the war in Iraq, with Afghanistan, with a lot of just a lot of Islamophobia, and I thought that was kind of a shitty way to do things. So there is that, but then I do agree, like you said, the technical masterpiece of it. It's really cool. I like the fact that the initials part was in London, and I live here now, and you can like see. I was like, oh shit! Like I know that place. Yeah. I really like
the first time I'd seen this film since moving to London. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it on that front too.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then I just like the fact that this future version of London isn't as shit as what we have right now. So
it's pretty tame. It's pretty tame.
No, wait, sorry. What we have now is better than what
was in the movie. Sorry.
What we have now is
shitty.
4 years out.
Yeah, it's 4 years out, so you never know.
2027.
Yeah.
Oh god,
that was noticeable. I was like, oh man.
Brace yourselves.
So, questions.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, shall we just jump in straight into favorite performance?
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
It's like his favorite scene.
This is great, and I started by saying favorite scene as well. Okay, whip, favorite scene. Then let's go. Instead of favorite scene or favorite moment. Favorite moment of this.
Because we're going to come into this problem again and again.
Yes,
talking about your theme,
especially my
when
theme,
you're focusing on long, extended single takes. It's like it's hard to define where a scene starts and ends, I suppose. But I guess favorite moment.
And the last time we did our favorite sequence of events.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
So, Kyle, do you have a favorite moment in this film? If so, what is it?
I do, but I guess I'm now a bit like in two minds because obviously. I was thinking, obviously, when I'm watching this, is like, bam, like all the one-ers or like the unbroken takes. And in a strange way, I kind of wish I'd watched this, like, obviously, before the more recent influx of like one-ers, like in like modern film, because like obviously, when I'm comparing, I'm going to be like, oh, maybe like Sam Mendes did it better.
Oh, yeah, 1917.
Like, other people have done it differently. But then again, it's like, I guess. Cuarón kind of started like it kind of like maybe like he's probably an influence for many other people. But I will say though that one of my favorite scenes is when Theo and Key and Miriam are leaving the farm and they're kind of just like rolling the car. They're rolling like the car down down the path, and it's and that I keep saying intense because it's like that's the real, like, I guess the only word that I can use to like describe it. But it's a mad scene because it's just like I feel like it's quite raw. It's pretty crazy. That kind of just like, you have all these people like with guns, like all these adversaries just chasing you, and they can't shoot you because obviously there's something that they want. But then you're kind of like rolling down, maybe like at 5 miles an hour, just down this very not so steep hill.
I guess it's like a metaphor for things going downhill because it was that point, right? That everything went downhill.
There you go.
But also, what I love in that scene is how bucolic their surroundings are. Like, I'm pretty sure, Alfonso Cuarón loves a challenge, so he decides, of course, we're going to shoot this at
Golden
sunrise.
Hour,
which you as a director will know means you've probably got maybe 1, if not 2, opportunities to shoot it, and then your day's gone pretty much.
Literally.
But it's literally, you can hear the birds singing in the background, and it's this beautiful idyllic farmhouse. Yeah. But then, you have this mad chase sequence with a car that hasn't even started yet. It's so great.
I mean, that's really cool.
And even the setup before, like, he kind of like takes the keys from one car.
That's when he's in snake mode. If any of you've seen
yes, he is in snake mode.
What's those games again?
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid. Very much.
Absolutely. That's so. And there's just something so like alarming and terrifying and like, oh, is he gonna get caught? And then obviously the car doesn't start, so they have to like kind of power through.
And they actually seeded it very subtly but carefully before, because when they arrive at the farmhouse, someone says you have to jumpstart the car.
They did. They did.
I was gonna say, like, this is that was one of my favorite. I've got 2, but that was one of them as well. I always, every time I watch this film, I'm always excited to see that sequence. For some reason, it just gives me all of the nerves and all the intensity I crave. Even though this film is packed to the brim with scenes like that. But I'll go with a little something different, and I'll do the bus sequence to when they arrive at the
with Julianne Moore.
No, the bus sequence when they arrive in the kind of immigration hot zone.
Oh, right.
Basically,
Calais, basically.
It's Calais, basically.
Yeah.
And the I can't remember her name now.
Is it Miriam?
The Miriam.
Or
is it
Sid?
Miriam is the one who is kind of the protector of
she's the
religious
what's it called?
kind
Sorry.
of
But she's an OBG. She delivers. She's a
like a
what
birth
do they
doula.
delivers a
dude?
child.
Like,
Oh, midwife.
Yeah, midwife.
Midwife. Sorry.
A podcast full of men. We don't know these things.
Also, that's Mrs. Trunchbull.
There we go.
Oh,
go.
man.
The actress is Mrs. Trunchbull.
I did think like it was an interesting role to play, and I was like, oh yeah, like I didn't really notice the face, but now you say it, I'm like, okay, interested.
But when she gets taken away, and it's just that like entire sequence where you get to see like basically the horrors of what's going on in that sequence. And yeah, it's just very striking to me, and it was just terrifying and alarming, and also like very real and raw, and it almost felt like Auschwitz. It felt like all those terrifying.
Wait, what did you say?
Auschwitz?
Oh, okay. I thought you said Auschwitz.
Auschwitz. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Sorry, Auschwitz. But Auschwitz, like terrifying moments like that, where like, oh shit, history repeats itself once again, and those horrors are not seen by the world, but they're just like in confined spaces like that, and we don't actually know what happens.
I mean, it's happening right now.
Yeah, it's happening.
I mean, I think
a lot of
the immigration debate that was featured into the film.
Yes.
I think that's more timely now in this in the UK than it was in 2006.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy seeing this film now, especially. So yeah, that just like, kind of raised my attention even more towards that scene in particular. What about you guys, Ollie?
Favorite scene. Yeah, I think it's some people, this might be a point in the film where it loses some people, or it feels like it's overreaching with its, obviously with the religious parallels that it's trying to draw. But it always gets me is that scene when after the Warner where they're descending down the staircase at the end. Sorry, when everyone discovers that she has the baby. And then that musical motif comes back again.
Life of a Prayer.
And John Tavener, and everyone just sort of stands still in the middle of a battle sequence, which some people might watch that. I think my partner saw that and was like, that's a little too far-fetched. That they all basically stop the war that's going on because they see a baby. But every time that scene comes on, I start crying, and it happened again last night. It's really powerful because it makes you think, what if you lived in a world? I know this is literally the premise of the movie, but what if you lived in a world where you hadn't seen a fucking baby or a child in nearly 20 years, and you saw one? And it's important because like it's true, our hope is all wrapped up in what future generations, unblemished by our own sins, can do. Yeah. So if you saw a child, you would probably just react in the same way and just start crying or want to touch it. Touch it.
It kind of reminds me of that Khaleesi scene in Game of Thrones where they're like,
Lisa. Yeah. No, it's true. That always gets me as well. And even though it is a bit cliche to this point, but back then I feel like it was even more impactful. I don't know.
I think that was like one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like I was gonna say,
and
that
it's fragments of a prayer, not life of a prayer. Fragments of a prayer.
Living on a prayer.
Living on a prayer by Bon Jovi. Yeah. Imagine that.
That's how I would have improved that scene.
No, I really like that scene, but I think for me, the shot of him rowing out into the sea was just incredible because the sound design in that scene is absolutely beautiful. Like with the water like hitting the sides of the boat and like the oars. I don't know. It was just, it really tickled my ear.
Yes, indeed, in the most beautiful way. But to be honest, sound in this film, like
incredible.
That's
great.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
like all of like things like doors closing and like
there's such a rawness to it. I don't know. It's so like there's such a natural element to
I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, it sounds real. It just sounds. It's weird to say that, but it sounds real.
Yeah. No, but I get you. I get you. And so we're not sound experts, so we don't know like what to say.
I guess I would be the expert at this, but even then, I don't do field recordings or anything, so I have no idea. But let's move to the next section. Did you say
I
yours?
did. I said that like the bus sequence, where you get to see the horrors. But favorite performance. Do we want to switch it up? This time I'll go Jabril.
This is so tough.
It is tough. It is tough.
I really I really liked Michael Caine. Because I've
Caine.
never seen him play a character like that. Well, yeah, but not really like that. Like he reminds me of like my uncles and my dads. Like the way he performed that, it was just like the whole conspiracy theorist kind of like in the woods, free spirit, and yeah, it's just such a joyful presence, and I really love that performance. Especially in a time when he was doing The Dark Knight as well, so he was
he was having a good
Alfred. He was known more for these brooding Christopher Nolan performances. Always like Harry Brown, like tough geezer.
Michael Caine.
More like my weed.
My weed.
Really that actually reminds me of the scene where just to add to the previous thing, the scene where is it his wife or his sister or
no? That's his wife.
It's his wife, right? Where he like assists suicide, I guess. In the end, and then he's like, pull my finger. That sequence was also great.
Pull my finger.
But yeah, performances. Sorry.
Yeah, Ollie.
Oh man, I don't want to take this from anyone else, but I mean, I think since on the second, I'm gonna have to say probably Clive Owen. I think you said it at the top, Raf. That
one of his finest.
I do think it's his best performance he's ever given. This is his magnum opus as a screen actor. He's not an actor that I've necessarily paid a lot of attention to as like one of the best. I always thought he was pretty talented and looked pretty good on screen, but I don't think anyone thought he was capable of this sort of depth. And I think the casting really works because I don't think anyone had seen those shades from Clive Owen. So it really works well for his journey, because at the beginning you see him and you think, okay, he's this kind of like slightly dark, cynical, but too cool for school sort of character. Pretty cynical again, but kind of suave in his own way. And then you just see him sort of like shed these layers as he sort of becomes this savior by the end, almost this Christ-like figure, really. And I think he just absolutely nails it. And the camera like never leaves him for the most part. Like he's on, which is really, really difficult.
He is the centerpiece of
and
this
film. And it's that great Die Hard thing where like half the performance he's just trying to find a decent pair of shoes to put on. So you can imagine all the physical duress that he's going, like in that oneer at the end when he's just sort of running and belting it for some shelter, and he just like leaps behind some debris, and you're like, that must have hurt. I'm pretty sure they didn't lay out like some sort of carpet or some.
Did he jump onto like 4 other people?
I was
that
one time? He says sorry.
He's like, sorry.
Yeah. So he probably put himself through the ringer for this performance. And you know what? The results show.
Deservedly so. Yeah. Kyle.
Yeah, I don't want to appear or seem like a hater, but I did feel like I felt very neutral across performances in the film. Like I do, I would say like Michael Caine is definitely like was like, I guess because again, as you said, like we don't really see Michael Caine like that. He usually plays like very like tough people, like cool people, but then he's just like he's a hippie, like great long hair, like smoking, like it's all you really need. And then like. With Clive Owen, like I was thinking of him in like Shoot 'Em Up, and then also like in Bourne.
Shoot 'Em Up, wow,
in the Bourne movies,
Bourne Supremacy, or Identity, and I was like, oh yeah, he was like really good, like naughty's actor, and then it's like that.
Is he kind of like the Gerard Butler kind of actor?
Maybe,
with a little, not like full on action.
He did some like romantic comedy stuff as well.
Yeah.
Closer as well was around that time.
Say,
Gosford Park, and
he's an interesting actor because I feel I guess it's something to chat about in a later topic, but I guess kind of like his arc is interesting, like as a character, because I feel like again he is. I do notice now, as you put it, like he's a bit of a cynic. There's a bit of like a darkness to him, but then I guess he kind of. I feel like his character gets a bit more like serious, a bit more like believing what's going on as the film like progresses, and I feel like it's an interesting arc. But I would guess like just as an ensemble, it was like it's pretty good. Like I think everyone's really good in it. I was thinking it was so interesting that like Julianne Moore is like. Big name, and she's like in it for what, maybe like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, 2006, like that's a crazy thing to do. But
she must have just really wanted to work with Alfonso Cuarón. Likewise,
I bet she was in the marketing a lot. It's probably it's like with Psycho, where they killed off can't remember her name, but she was like one of the biggest actors in the
the
scene at the time, and then they kill her off right at the beginning.
Right in the beginning, yeah.
Or it's like what was it? Suicide Squad 2, where they just kill everyone in the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, the original cast.
Exactly,
The original cast, yeah. And you're like,
good.
what the fuck is going on?
I like when that happens because it's like, oh, they're going, they're veering a different direction.
They did that with Drew Barrymore and Scream.
Yeah.
The other guys, they killed The Rock and Samuel.
I love that. It's so good.
Recounting everyone they killed at the beginning.
All the good guys.
Sean Bean, almost in everything.
Yeah.
I'll give this because obviously I think I love and I cherish Clive Owen's performance, and again, like it's one of his best. He was also an Inside Man. That just came out of my head.
He's that
was
very
the same
good
year
that,
as well.
actually.
Same year. 2006.
And a great series called The Nick.
Yes.
Check it out. Steven Soderbergh.
But I think this time around, I will give it to specifically to the background actors of this film because they bring this film to life. And I think this film is a perfect example of what happens in the foreground and what happens in the background.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's a beautiful video essay that explains all this on YouTube. But I want to commend the performances of every background actor because they help paint this movie to life and bring it to life, because this movie would not be anything if it wasn't for the world that's around us. And there are moments where Alfonso Cuarón chooses to focus out of the stars and go into the background actors and go into like those performances specifically to like really enrich the world that we're in, and the cruelty, the despair, the intensity, all of it. And I think all those wonderful performances from just that entire ensemble of people really brings this like cruel dystopian world to life, to bleak life. So to the background actors, and I've been a background actor, and I know how it is, and I think being a background actor in a film like that would actually be awesome, like because you're in this world,
and you could see how you're being actually utilized, as a crowd.
I feel like, especially in like, let's say that bus sequence that I praised for my favorite scene, you could like see almost some specificity in some of the, like the background actors' performances. Like you see some guy at the back like coughing profusely, like almost as if he's sick.
And he's like cigarette.
Yeah. And there's like I feel like they were almost given more than just like, let's say, man on chair or like man at the back of the bus or something like that. It's like they were given names, they were given lives, they were given like actual characters to fully breathe in and to fully be in. So,
I saw that like when they were going through when they stepped off of the bus, and then he was like trying to find Key, and he was trying to go through, and there were people asking him things, and that's a good point. I didn't really think about that.
Again, it's because I've watched it a million times. I could be like, hey, you know what?
Before we move on as well, I'll just give one quick shout out to Peter Mullen as well, who played Sid. Great character. Peter Mullen, incredible Scottish actor.
Spoke to himself in the third person as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think he's great as he always is in this film.
100%.
All right.
Favorite quote.
Can I go first?
Yeah, of course.
Pull my finger.
Pull my finger.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, because especially with the foreshadowing in the beginning where he does it the first time and it's like everything's fine and happy and funny. And the second time he does it, everyone knows that he's going to be like, oh, I guess I'm going to do it. And then boom.
Yeah. It's very sad actually when it's that second time around. It's like, shit. Shit, man. And when he says, "Oh, don't worry, I've talked my way out of worse things." Yeah, it's like, oh man, yeah. Kyle, Ollie,
Kyle, go ahead.
I guess that might be one of my favorite lines was when Michael Caine's character saying, "I've taught myself out of worse things." And it's like, even knowing what happens next, you kind of know, here it's gonna go. I feel like it wasn't a film for words or quotes, if you know what I mean. Because 100%. I guess kind of backtracking a bit to what you were saying earlier, Ollie, about some things you might have had a question about in terms of like the script and stuff. I do think some of the lines and writing sometimes falls a bit into the generic area.
Sure.
And sometimes I was like, maybe. But I did like I guess I just quite liked whenever Michael Caine was on the screen. He just left a good left a good impression. But
hippie cocaine.
Probably also did some coke. That character probably did some coke. Back in the days. Yeah.
I felt like Chiwetel definitely said some good stuff in that film, but
he was saddled with a lot of the political lecture.
Exactly. Yeah.
But in terms of quotes, it was a bit of a struggle to find something that really stood out. But I did write down, this is the first baby born in 20 years, and you want to name it Froley.
That was literally the line I was about to say. Ollie, you gotta stop doing this. Man.
I know.
That always makes me laugh. In 18 years, and you want to call it Froley. I think for me, to really represent kind of Theodore's, like, especially at the beginning when he's, brooding and he has no kind of reason to live. It's when Jasper says, what'd you do for your birthday? Nothing. Oh, come on, you must have done something. And he says, nope, woke up, felt like shit, went to work, felt like shit. And I'm like, in a world like that, why? Like, why would you, what is the reason for living? And which is why you're kind of, in the book, this is more laid out, but the pills that you would take for an easy passing to death, which is what he gives to his wife, Michael Caine, or Jasper's character.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it says on the actual carton or what the name is, but
The Quietus.
There it is.
Which is also the name, I believe it's the name of like a music publication too.
Oh, well, there we go. So there's a few musical references in this film as well. There's the Pink Floyd.
The Quietus, isn't that part of like isn't that like the needle on something, on like a record player?
Oh, I did not know.
Could be wrong about that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, if you are right, we go to school every day. But yeah, so it's like, I don't know, like that line always gives me like the chills, because it's like, man, like it is a really depressing world. Like what reason would you have to live? So, all right, armchair moment.
Yeah.
All right, so this is where we lay it all out. This is the critiques. I will step back because I have nothing to offer, because this movie is a masterpiece. It's perfect. You all don't say shit. No, please go ahead.
Yeah.
I do want to hear some of your thoughts. Actually, Jabril, since you mentioned that,
so I touched
really
upon
vibe.
it in the beginning, the whole Allahu Akbar stuff. I was like, that was completely unnecessary. I don't think it did anything to add to the film other than maybe scare people that are in the West who are watching it. And I thought that was a really poor choice, honestly.
But would you, poor choice, but would you say, just to play devil's advocate, that part of, let's say, the climax is to like instill a lot of like extremism. So like, let's say the French, there's also like that part of where like there's a French flag. And maybe it's just like showing
was there a
that
part
like
that was a French flag. Which I wondered if it was because there would be a lot of French people who have been kept there, or if it's because it's invoking the French resistance or the French Revolution.
The French Revolution.
Interesting.
So is Alfonso Cuarón trying to evoke that like basically the worst parts of humanities are coming to life by like shedding some extremist versions of themselves, and this is why we're having this clash and this war between different cultures and collisions. But of course,
I just thought it was
poor.
You could just have people shouting.
You don't have
exactly.
To have it
as religiously.
They were like the first outwardly Muslim people we'd seen on screen.
It was the only time. It was the only time that you hear, I think, another language as well. I don't know if you hear anyone speak.
We hear a lot of like Eastern European.
Sorry?
I was going to say just kind of like most vocally, because I guess I remember that scene for being so like when I was listening to it, like sound wise, it's so piercing, it's so loud, it's so very like kind of like in your face. But I remember there was a point, obviously, just before that, it was a bit violent, and then it like kind of quietens, and then then the sound like builds up to this very like striking chanting, which I do agree with you. It's kind of the post 9/11 gaze of like American filmmaking, isn't it? Because there've been a few films I've watched recently that like early 2000s kind of thrillers, especially when it like was a plane film. It's obviously a lot of the gaze with the camera, and the direction is always kind of there unfortunately was always kind of someone of color, for kind of, I guess, the narrative to kind of like sway towards.
Yeah. And you mentioned also like the whole like white hero complex as well.
I mean, that's a little bit less because that's something like a fault of the time.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've seen change in the last 10 years, you can say.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, I because at least with my experience, the whole, I wouldn't say Islamophobic, but yeah, like you said, post 9/11 gays. I like that term. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else wants to add their armchair moment.
I mean, I think I had a few issues with the script. And I could sort of, I think what I would try and summarize it, since I know that we're a little behind on time, but if I could summarize it sort of quickly, I think this film is so focused on the technical aspects and sort of getting these perfect shots that often dialogue is used as a background element when it should be used as a foreground element, because it's meant to be moving the story along, and it's meant to be developing some of the characters. And I just feel like some important beats might have just been glossed over a little bit because they weren't being prioritized as much. Like, I think particularly with the fishes, I think that's what they're called, the rebellious force.
Sure.
I think exactly how they wanted to use the baby to sort of support their own uprising, and the differences that existed between Chiwetel Ejiofor's character and Julian's character. I know that they mentioned that it's a matter of violence, basically, but I felt like I would have loved like a scene where we saw that debate sort of happening a little bit more. And maybe Alfonso Cuarón would say this is not the kind of movie he was interested in making. But then the same could be said for Julian Moore and Clive Owen's character's relationship. Like I thought their chemistry was really good, and I thought I could, for such a tight film, I was like, we could have actually used another 10, 15 minutes just sort of developing this a little bit, so that when she is shot, she's shot in the neck out of nowhere, it comes as a real loss to the audience.
It's more impactful.
And then I'll just quickly add on this. I do not like Charlie Hunnam.
I know you don't.
He fucking sucks. I know you don't. And he just rips me right out of this movie. They could have cost so many other people to do that role. So that's my other armchair moment.
He kind of plays
recast Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah, he plays that character almost too often.
Didn't we talk about him in Prayer Before Dawn as well?
We did. Which is just a couple of movies ago.
He was mentioned.
He was supposed to be Joe Cole. He was supposed to be the main character.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I don't understand why his accent's meant to be. I know that's ironic coming from me.
Where are you from?
I know, but it always just pulls me out of the movie.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And he's still working. He's still doing stuff.
Come on, guys.
No, I don't hate him that much, to be honest. I think he fits that particular brand of character, like that kind of character. But I don't think I also don't think he's incredible. Any armchair moment?
Kind of like bouncing a bit off you, Ollie. I do think I did feel like at the end of the film where it kind of just ends, I did feel like, oh, this was kind of a bit dreadful. Like, it was a bit of a dreadful watch.
But I do the cheeriest.
But I do think it is like they do sacrifice a lot of moments of like trying to improve writing or trying to improve kind of conversations for technical like aspects. Like I do think there is a point in which the film does feel like, oh, we've like kind of like glued together like loads of different kind of like sequences, like kind of like sequences, and sometimes it's just like a collection of images and just moments like heightened. Because I do agree, it's kind of like, I guess like the one of the first like big kind of moments, like when they're driving and then it's kind of like all the kind of people just come onto the road. It does kind of come out of nowhere, and then it's like obviously it ends with kind of like Julianne Moore's character being killed. And I did think it was a great kind of sequence, but then also thought it was like lacking something before, and then also just lacking kind of like, I guess what comes after eventually, like the reveal where it's like it was all planned and stuff. That's a great moment, because then it feels like, oh, I feel like I'm back in the film, and because then there's a good bit of story coming in. I also felt like sometimes tonally it was like all over the place. And I mean that kind of more, I guess, in the sub moments, kind of like the more like relationship kind of elements, where it's kind of like, oh, like, Clive Owen and Julianne Moore's character, like they have to convince us that they had a really strong prior relationship, and in this moment where it's like, oh, they're supposed to be doing something like really, really serious, feels like they're playing around a lot, but it didn't convince me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then obviously he's obviously, it's kind of like he's developing his character to the point where he like believes that like he needs to carry out this mission. He needs to like look out for Key. But I felt like a lot of the time I was still trying to be convinced about kind of like his character, his direction, until the end, which I feel like it's like well like deserved. So I guess I would have probably like toned up the drama and a bit more of like those kind of like darker elements, even though there's moments for like warmth and stuff. I do feel like the film kind of catches me off guard at some points. But yeah, pretty much it.
Yeah. I will offer like a bit of just jumping on both of what you guys have said. I will say that the book itself is a lot more widespread. There's a lot more detail. There's a lot more place
it's also,
for
like men are infertile, right, in the book, and women aren't.
And women aren't. Yeah, women are infertile in the movie.
In the movie, they're infertile.
Yeah. And I'll say that like the book, I think maybe paints a more a grimmer and a bleaker picture of this dystopian world. And it's a little more harrowing because there's just more details to it. Whereas I feel Alfonso probably wanted a more narrow and focused journey of a more central journey. So with focusing on one character to tell these elements. But the one thing that he is able to bring out is, again, with the whole foreground background, is what he's able to capture in an entire set, in an entire scene, with composition, with choreography. You do get elements from the book come to life, and you're like, oh shit, I remember reading that, and he's actually like now putting it on screen. It's subtle, but it's there, including the pills that are given from Michael Caine to his wife.
Like I'd say a scene that I would have loved to have read and at least like maybe experience is the moment where he goes to Vox or Vex.
Oh yeah,
and he, like the Ministry of Art or whatever it's called.
The Danny Houston character.
Houston character.
And the Gossip Girl kid.
Chuck Bass.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Robert Pattinson. Honestly, I thought it this whole time.
Misconception.
That was not Batman. I promise you, that was not
Batman.
But I love the image of Guernica in the back, which is one of Picasso's most impactful paintings. So I don't know. Does the book talk about that?
It does. Yeah. There's more room with an exploration in that particular like sequence in the film. In the film, it's kind of abbreviated. A lot of moments like that are abbreviated. Like when they get to the forest and Julianne Moore's character gets shot, like that's a whole like chapter in the book with like the people and who these people are in the forest and like what their tribe is and their beliefs and their ideals. So there's a lot to the book, and I do recommend it if you like dystopian novels, which I do. All right, mystery question. This one was kind of hard. I was like, I don't really know what to kind of. It's gonna have to be a little bit creative. So I think I'm gonna go with, and I don't know if you've seen a lot of dystopian stuff, but I'm gonna like pick out 3, and you're just gonna give me your favorite, like the favorite dystopian world you'd rather live in.
Okay.
All right.
Favorite dystopian world you'd like to live
in. Like a type of
like a type of dystopian. Okay. So let's say we've got the Mad Max world. Right? Fucking vast desert. There's no water. It's horrible. And people are chasing you and like, that kind of world. Like the grimness of that and the hot heat of that world, which could very much happen in 50 years. Children of Men, which is also just a bleak, depressing
kind of
world.
like politically
charged, civil unrest.
Totalitarianism.
All that. Or The Matrix. So you're all living underground. It's AI taking over.
Can
robots.
I opt for like a completely one that hasn't? Is this like multiple choice?
Or you can. I mean, you
I'll
can.
just dive right in. Blade Runner. I wouldn't mind living in the Blade Runner world. I mean, it rains all the time, but I don't mind. I'm okay with a little bit of damp weather. Culture seems to have fused with Eastern society, so there's a good noodle shop around the corner wherever you are. There's like local guys serving it, so you know it's going to be the good stuff. It's going to be the real deal.
True.
I wouldn't mind, kicking it with some
replicants.
So
this
they
is
got
where this
flying
podcast
machines.
gets dirty.
Yeah, so it's actually not too bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
Blade Runner.
keep it clean.
Keep
Okay,
it clean
come on.
for the
Get your
kids.
mind out of
For the
the
kids.
gutter.
Yeah. Blade Runner. That's a good one. That's a good. Yeah. If y'all have a choice outside of those, I'm just giving out examples of dystopian worlds. But if you had like,
it's like, where do you think you would survive?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like, where do you think you'd survive and live kind of most comfortably?
That's why I was like, definitely not Mad
circumstances?
Max. I'd be dead like day one.
So that's my
I'd be
answer.
sold into slavery so quickly.
Well,
I don't know.
Like, could I be like Mad Max-esque, or would I have to be like a loony? Like, I forgot what they're all called. Like, that.
Yeah, those like like adrenaline eating
Yeah.
like junkies.
Oh, War Boys or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I
mean, I guess you'd pick your faction, right? You'd be wherever you can survive.
Yeah.
But let's say you are kind of the central pivotal character, and you are a Mad Max character. So you've got a car, and you're kind of a badass. And basically, the Mad Max world is that's the items that you can have is a car. You got a gun. You're just surviving.
I mean, out of the three that you've given me, I think like the Mad Max one seems like the best bet, because I'm like, oh yeah, I could live in like an even more evil Britain.
Yeah,
but I'd rather not.
You'd rather not. Yeah,
so
good call.
I feel like maybe I might have to just like take the chances out in the desert. And
for sure, there's more freedom. Maybe there's a bit more freedom.
And if I get like a character arc like Mad Max in Fury Road, I might be better off.
Do you like motorcycles or cars? Are you
what's your preferred vehicle?
I'll probably take one of the cars, because I think if I'm on a motorcycle and someone comes up, like for me, I'm just like gonna go like 50 feet in the air, like some of those stunt performers.
Yeah.
I mean, if just a quick one, if I am able to choose my own,
please go.
I'll probably go to Arrakis. Just
Arrakis. Yes.
What's that from?
Yeah, what's Dune?
Oh, Dune.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, is that considered dystopian then?
Yeah, is that? I guess you could. There's elements of like sci-fi dystopian, Well,
sure.
Dystopian is sci-fi, but this is more like
want to ride some big worms.
Yeah, like just become one.
This is like space opera dystopian.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Good choice.
Oh, very good choice. So it's kind of similar to Mad Max, a very deserty kind of like.
I feel like I'd have a better chance in Arrakis.
Right on, Jabril. Do you have anyone in mind, or do you?
Yeah, I do. Freaking New York, the Warriors.
Wow.
I like
with
that.
like just weird gangs and stuff. Because like it's still New York, but like I don't know. I think I'd be one of those like rollerblading clowns or whatever.
You'd be part of a gang. Yeah.
Sure.
Warriors. And then I was also thinking like Man in the High Tower.
Like an alternate
reality kind of dystopian thing. Because I always like the what if kind of question.
Sure,
it's always really interesting.
Revisionist history.
Yeah. But yeah, shall we move on? Oh, you didn't say yours yet.
I mean, there's Mad Max, but like just to be different.
No one said Terminator either.
I guess it depends. The Terminator, you'd be living
future.
in that world. You'd be in the future. Oh, it's
just
grim.
as bad as a Matrix. Or
But I think I'd pick the Matrix, because at least there's an escape. There's an escapist kind of quality to the Matrix where you get to like create.
No, but you have to fight the agents all the time. You don't get to enjoy the Matrix if you're out
you
of
have to plug in.
You have to
a big hole in the back.
And you have
to take the red
and you're
pill,
pretty much wired, don't you? Like
you just got holes in your body.
You're like half robotic at this point as well.
That's the one.
It's not cool, but if I get to like know kung fu, then maybe I'll go for it. Like get a bit of kung fu going. Download some jujitsu, like just get to fighting, and then maybe
I'll raves in Zion.
Get to do that. Those Zion raves look awesome. So
look at Lawrence
like
Fishburne go
Zion. Yeah. No, truly, the Matrix.
DJing the apocalypse.
Well, we've got our four different dystopian ideals and worlds. All right, to wrap it up. Ratings. So usually with ratings, and I didn't tell you this, but we give it a little like totem from the film. So whether that's
we can go first.
Yeah, we go first.
Just
example. Do you guys want to go first? I'm like still thinking of
your thing, right?
Yeah, I can go first. This might be a bit cringy. I'm gonna give this film 8.5, 8.5. Wickeds.
Love it.
I'm also gonna give it 8.5.
Interesting.
little flip flops.
Oh, flip flops.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as he puts that on, I'm like, damn, I already see what's going to come. He just didn't have any other like Michael Caine was like, sorry, amigo, I don't have any other shoes.
And they were like the worst, like 7-Eleven, like
yes,
flip flops. Like they weren't even like
$2
Havaianas or anything.
No, they were
like,
the worst quality.
Yeah, the worst ones you could have.
Like they blister after 5 minutes. Like, yeah, flip flops. All right, I'll give it 10 out of 10 miracle babies out of 10.
I like it.
Yeah.
I hope this works. I will give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's just as good as the strawberry cough weed strain.
Nice. Well done.
I'll remember. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then
on that
we'll
note,
wrap it up on that one. Thank you for coming, Kyle. This was really great.
Everyone.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, sweet. So, as usual, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, do all that jazz. You know how it is. I can't remember when this episode comes out.
Who's to know?
But
in 2027.
So if Temps Rising happened, I hope you enjoyed it. If Temps Rising is yet to have happened, please come to the show.
Yeah, 30th of April, bank holiday weekend, behind this wall. This will be really. We'll cut this out.
We'll cut this out. Yeah, we will cut this out.
It's already happened.
But yeah, next one is Victoria, and the last one. Ciao, ciao for now, my people.